There you go.
All right, good afternoon, and welcome to our professional learning community session here at Dr. Leo G. Cigarroa High School, part of the Laredo Independent School District. My name is Manuel Cerda, and I am joined today here by Mr. Alexander Castro and Mr. Alan Perez. And today's session it is entitled Algebra 1 POC, and we're going to take a deep dive into our Algebra 1 curriculum. We'll be able to analyze instructional pacing, evaluate student performance data, identify gaps in conceptual understanding, and developing a plan to support both our teachers and students in Algebra 1. Algebra 1 is a fundamental course. It is the gateway to higher level mathematics and is a key predictor of academic success. Our goal today is to ensure that our curriculum is not only aligned with ethics, but also to the needs of our learners.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cerda. I want to start by acknowledging the importance of this conversation. Algebra 1 isn't just another math class. It's the first real test of abstract reasoning for many of our students. If we don't get this right, we're setting them up for struggle in geometry, Algebra 2, and beyond. So let's be honest about what's working and what's not. Looking at the district pacing guide, it's clear that we're covering all the required TICs, but I have concerns about how we're sequencing the content. Are we building understanding, or are we racing through topics just to stay on schedule?
Well, that's exactly the issue I've been seeing. I have reviewed the first 3 week cycles, and while the pacing is aggressive, it does not always reflect to how our students learn. So, for example, we're introducing slope-intercept form before students have a solid grasp of rate of change. That's a conceptual leap that many students aren't ready for. They're memorizing formulas without understanding what the slope actually represents.
You're right. And when students can connect to math, to real world meaning, it becomes a mechanical exercise. They might be able to solve for why, but they don't know why they're doing it. That's not mastery, that's survival.
I've seen that too. Function notation is another area where students struggle. It's abstract, and if we don't scaffold it properly, they get lost. We need to use real world examples, like you said, like cost functions or distance over time, so that they can visualize what's happening. Otherwise, it becomes symbols on a page.
And that ties into our vertical alignment. Our middle school feeder campus are teaching proportional reasoning, but the transition to Algebra 1 is abrupt. We need to bridge that gap intentionally. I suggest we look into the vocabulary overlap and see whether we can create a smoother transition. Are the students coming in with a solid understanding of ratios, rates, and unit analysis?
Oh, well, let's flag that. Reach out to our feeder middle school principals and propose a joint POC. If we can align expectations and vocabulary, we'll reduce the cognitive load on our freshmen. We're seeing too many students come in with procedural fluency, but not conceptual foundation. That's not sustainable.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And we also need to look how we're introducing functions. Are we giving the students the opportunities to fully explore the patterns before formalizing them? Or are we jumping straight into conclusion and into the definitions and formulas? Because if we're not building the curiosity, then we're losing the engagement.
I think it varies by teacher. Some are using Desmos, others are using digital tools to let students play with graphs, and others are still relying on worksheets. We need consistency. We need to define what high quality instruction will look like in Algebra 1.
Okay, so then let's make that a priority. We'll develop shared set of instructional expectations for Algebra 1. What tools to use, what strategies to emphasize, and how to build conceptual understanding before procedural fluency. And we'll make sure those expectations are supported, not just mandated.
One thing I would like to add is the importance of anchoring instructions in real world context. Algebra 1 doesn't exist in a vacuum. If we're teaching linear equations, let's go ahead and connect that to a budgeting, distance line relationship, or even sports statistics. The relevance makes the math sticks and want them to be engaged in the classroom.
Now that you mentioned, that's a great point. And it's not just about engagement, it's about equity. When students see themselves in the problems they're solving, they're more likely to persist. We need to be intentional about representation in our examples, our word problems, and our classroom discussions.
And let's not forget about vocabulary development. Math has its own language, and if students don't understand terms like coefficient, intercept, or domain, they're going to struggle more. We should be embedding the vocabulary instruction into every lesson, not just listing definitions, but using the words in context.
Yeah, I would like to propose a vocabulary protocol. In each unit, we should have a set of target terms, and teachers should be expected to introduce them, model them, and reinforce those terms throughout the unit. We can also use word walls, sentence stems, and student created glossaries to make it stick.
Okay, perfect. So then let's build that into our curriculum revision. I want to see vocabulary map for each unit, key terms, definition, visual representation, and opportunities for students to use academic language in discussion and writing. Math isn't just numbers, it's communication.
And communication is the key to assessment. If students can explain their reasoning, they're demonstrating understanding, we would be asking students to justify their answers, critique each other's thinking, and reflect on their learning. That's how we build mathematical thinkers.
Exactly. That's why the PLC process is so important. We're not just tweaking and pacing, not tweaking and using a pacing guide. We're reimagining how Algebra 1 is taught. We're building a framework that supports deep learning, equity, and the student's agency.
Okay, sounds great. So let's keep that momentum going. We'll move into student data next, but I want us to remember curriculum isn't just what we teach, it's how we teach, why we teach, and who we're teaching. Let's stay focused on that.
So before we go ahead and transitions, I want to suggest that we also look on how we're assessing readiness at the start of the year. Maybe we need a diagnostic that goes beyond the basic skills, something that tells us how the students think, how they approach the problems, and where their misconceptions lie.
That's a great idea. A diagnostic that includes open-ended questions, graph interpretation, verbal reasoning would give us a real clear picture. We could use that data to group students and then, target interventions and even adjust pacing as necessary.
Okay, so let's add to our action items. We'll design a diagnostic assessment over the summer and pilot it next fall. I'll be part of our broader effort to personalize instruction and meet students where they are.
Perfect. That gives us a strong foundation. Let's move into section 2 and look on how our students are performing and what the data is telling us about our instruction. Now that we have laid the groundwork with curriculum alignment, let's shift our focus to our students' performance. I've compiled benchmark data from our first semester, and I think it's going to help us understand where our instruction is landing and where it's missing the mark. We have approximately 312 students enrolled in Algebra 1 this fall. Of those 47% scored below 70 on the district benchmark. That's nearly half of our students performing below proficiency. And when the year you break it down by the standard, the most missed items were on solving systems of equations, interpreting graphs, and applying function notation.
Well, that's troubling. And it's not just about the numbers, it's about what those numbers represent. If students are consistently missing questions tied to the system and the graph interpretation, we need to ask, are we teaching those concepts effectively? Are we giving students enough time to explore and internalize them?
I agree. I'm looking at the item analysis, and it's clear for the students are performing better on procedural questions than on the conceptual ones. So, for example, they can solve equations using substitution, but they struggle to explain what the solution represents in context. They can graph a line, but they cannot interpret the slope or the intercepts.
So that suggests our instruction is skewed towards algorithmic teaching. We're giving them the steps, but they're not catching why. They're learning how to solve the problem without knowing what the solution means. So that's a problem. If students don't understand the underlying concepts, they won't be able to transfer their knowledge into new situations.
So now the question is, how do we fix that? Do we need to incorporate more inquiry-based learning? More opportunities for students to explore and discover?
Yes, and more formative assessments. The teachers need to know in real time whether the students are struggling. I like to recommend exit tickets focus on conceptual understanding, like, for example, explain why the solution to a system is a point or is a point of intersection. That kind of question forces the students to think beyond the procedure.
Also, let's not overlook attendance. I was cross-referencing benchmark scores with attendance records, and students with more than 10 absence had about 30% lower average score. And that's like not even just correlation. I think that's causation. If students aren't in class, then they're not learning.
Wow, that's significant. I think we need to involve our attendance committee. Maybe we can pilot an Algebra 1 intervention block for chronically absent students. Pull them during advisory or offer Saturday sessions. We need to be proactive.
I like that. And we should also look at our SPED or and EL populations. Are we differentiating enough is a question. Are we providing sentence stems, visual supports, and scaffolding tasks? Because equity and math instruction isn't just about access. It's about the support you give to the students.
Okay, I'll pull the subgroup data. We need to know where the gaps are and how to close them. We need to make sure that our teachers have the tools to differentiate effectively. And so that's going to mean PD, coaching, and collaborative planning.
So, speaking on differentiation, I've noticed that some of the teachers are using tired assignments, but others are giving the same tasks to every student. We need to be more intentional. Differentiation is not just about giving a struggling student easier work. It's about giving them all student access to the same rigorous content with the right level of support, of course.
Okay, so then let's build that into our lesson planning protocol. I think teachers should be identifying learning targets, anticipating misconceptions, and planning scaffolds. That's how we move from reactive to proactive instruction.
And let's talk about assessment design. Are our quizzes and tests measuring what we want them to measure? That's a question. Are we accessing conceptual understanding or just procedural fluency?
That's a great question. I reviewed a few common assessments, and most of them are multiple choice, which is fine for a quick check. But I think we also need to include some constructed response items, questions that require students to explain, justify, and reflect.
Okay, so I'm suggesting that we should revise our common assessments. Each unit should include a mix of item types, like multiple choice, short answer, and extended response. And we should be using rubrics to evaluate students' thinking, not just whether they go to the right answer.
I also like to recommend student self-assessment. Let them reflect on their understanding, identify areas of confusion, and set goals. That builds metacognition and ownership towards their own success in the classroom.
And let's not forget about their feedback. Timely, specific feedback is one of the most powerful tools we have. If students don't know what they did wrong or how to fix it, they're not going to improve.
I also agree. Pretty much, I also think feedback should be part of the learning process, not just the post-porting. Teachers should be conferencing with students, using peer review and revisiting assessments. Learning doesn't stop when the test is over.
One last point on data. We need to be looking at the growth, not just the proficiency. Some of our students may not be hitting 70 yet, but they're making progress. Let's celebrate that and use it to guide our instruction.
Absolutely. I think also growth data tell us who's responding to instruction and who needs more support. I think it's going to help us identify effective practices. If one teacher student are showing strong growth, let's learn from them.
And I think we should also share that data with the students. When they see their own progress, I think that they're going to feel more motivated. We could make that data part of the classroom culture, something not to fear, but to get used to and, celebrate.
Great. So to summarize all this is we're seeing gaps in conceptual understanding, especially in systems and graph interpretation. 2, attendance is a major factor in achievement. 3, our SPED and EDO students need targeted support. 4, assessments should measure thinking, not just the answers. And number 5, feedback and reflections are essential to the growth.
Okay, sounds great. So let's take those insights and use them to drive our instructional planning. In the next section, we'll talk about pedagogy, teacher support, enrichment opportunities. But for now, let's commit to using data not just to diagnose problems, but to design solutions.
Now we've looked at our data, let's talk about what is happening in the classroom. I've conducted approximately 18 walkthroughs in Algebra 1 this semester, and I want to share with you some patterns. I've observed, first, teachers are using angle charts, which is great, but they're not statistical. They're not being referenced during the instructions, and students are not interacting with them. Second, the student's discourse is minimal. Most of the lessons are teacher-centered with limited opportunities for students to talk, explain, or answer any questions or misconceptions they have.
I agree. And that's not the vision set at the beginning of the year. We talk about student ownership, collaborative learning, and inquiry-based instruction. If students aren't talking about math, they're not talking deeply about it. We need to revisit our instructional framework and make sure our teachers understand what engagement and rigor really looks like.
Exactly. And when I say discourse, I don't just mean students answering questions. I mean students discussing the strategies. They're defending the reasoning and critique and each other's ideas. That's the kind of classroom culture we need to build.
We also need to support our teachers in making that shift, because it's not enough to say use discourse. We have to show them how. I suggest we add a professional development session focused on mathematical discourse strategy. We can cover sentence stems, accountable talk, Socratic questioning, structured pair share routines.
Agreed. Let's model it. During our next faculty meeting, let's do a demo lesson. Show teachers what it looks like to facilitate rather than to lecture. Let's make that shift happen from teacher-centered to student-centered instruction, visible and accountable.
Okay, I'll take that on. I'll teach a sample lesson and solve a system using substitution. We'll invite teachers to observe, take notes, and debrief afterward. We need to shift the culture from compliance to curiosity, from coverage to understanding.
And let's leverage our instructional coaches. They can co-plan and co-teach with the Algebra 1 team. It's not about evaluation, it's about support. We need to build trust and capacity. So coaches should be seen as partners, not inspectors. It's not a walkthrough, it's help.
Agreed. And another area we need to address is lesson planning. Are the teachers unpacking the TEKs? Are they really identifying the cognitive demand? Are they planning for the misconceptions? Because if we're not being intentional, we're being reactive. We need a lesson planning protocol that guides teachers through the process of designing rigorous, responsive instruction.
Okay, so I'm suggesting we should start creating a checklist. Each lesson plan should include number one, learning objectives aligned to TEKs. Number two, anticipated misconception. Number three, maybe a vocabulary targets. Number four, what about engagement strategies? Number five, formative assessment checkpoints. And lastly, differentiation plans. Maybe we can review plans weekly and provide feedback. And we'll celebrate strong planning during PLCs.
That's a great idea. And we should also encourage teachers to reflect on their lessons, what worked, what didn't, what would they change next time. I think reflection is a key part of professional growth.
Let's talk about the enrichment process. We have students who are ready for more. They're finishing assignments early, asking advanced questions, and showing a strong performance on assessments. We need to challenge those students. I propose we pilot an Algebra 1 honors track next year.
Okay, it should be the same for the TEKs, but deeper tasks, project-based learning, real-world applications, and interdisciplinary connections. We can change them without overwhelming them. These students should be solving problems that matter, budgeting, coding, and analyzing data.
We can include interdisciplinary projects, math and science or math and economics. We can let students see how algebra lives outside of the math classroom and maybe design a business model or analyze climate data. There's endless possibilities.
And for acceleration, let's offer Algebra 1 over the summer for incoming freshmen who are ready. That opens up pathways for AP Calculus, dual credit, and STEM endorsements. We need to start thinking long term.
I totally agree. Why not coordinating with our counselors and middle school partners? We'll identify candidates and communicate with families early. This isn't just about acceleration, it's about opportunity.
We'll need to design a summer curriculum that's rigorous but accessible. Maybe a hybrid model, some in-person instruction, some online modules. And we'll need to build in support structures like tutoring, check-ins, communicating with parents.
We should also consider the enrichment opportunities during the school year. Math clubs, competition, guest speakers, and field trips. Let's make math exciting again. Let's show the students that algebra isn't just about being in class, it's a tool for understanding the world.
And why not also let's involve families? Host a math night where students showcase projects, solve puzzles, and explain concepts to their parents. When families are engaged, the students are more motivated.
We can also create student portfolios, collections of work that show their growth, creativity, and mastery. The portfolio will give the students a sense of ownership and hopefully pride. They're also great tools for reflection and goal setting.
Let's not forget about peer tutoring. Some of the upperclassmen could serve as math mentors. That builds leadership and reinforces learning. It also creates a sense of community.
Okay, and also why not let's make our enrichment efforts are inclusive. We don't want to create a divided between honors and regular students. Every student should have access to change, support, and recognition.
That's a good point. Differentiation isn't just for remediation, it's for enrichment too. So let's make sure teachers are designing tasks that allow for multiple entry points and multiple levels of complexity.
Perfect. So to summarize this whole section, one, we need to shift instruction from teacher-centered to student-centered. Two, we'll provide a PD of discourse, inquiry, and lesson planning. Three, instructional coaches will support teachers through co-planning and co-teaching. Four, we'll pilot an Algebra 1 honors track and offers acceleration. Five, we'll create an enrichment opportunity for the connect math to the real world.
And pretty much, pues, let's not forget about building a culture of excellence. Our students are capable of deep thinking, creating problem solving, and academic success. We just need to give them the tools, the support, and the opportunities.
And our teachers are capable of leading that transformation. With the right guidance and collaboration, they can create classrooms where every student can thrive.
Perfect. Let's keep this momentum going. In this final section, we'll have to lay our action plan, assign responsibilities, and set a timeline where we're not just talking, we're taking action. So we covered a lot today. We covered curriculum alignment, student performance, instructional practices, and enrichment. Now it's time to turn the idea into action. Let's lay out a clear plan with responsibilities, timelines, and checkpoints. We want to make sure that the work doesn't stay in the PLC room. It needs to reach the classroom, students, and families.
Totally agree. Let's start by revisiting our curriculum goals. First, we're going to revise the Algebra 1 curriculum map to emphasize conceptual understanding, especially in the early units. That means reordering topics, integrating vocabulary, and scaffolding abstract concepts. I'll take the lead on forming a curriculum revision team. We'll include department chairs, instructional coaches, and one or two classroom teachers.
Second, we'll initiate a vertical alignment POC with our feeder middle schools. We'll focus on the vocabulary, instructional strategies, and expectations for incoming freshmen. I'll coordinate with the middle school principal and set up our first joint session within the next month.
Third, we'll implement formative assessments that target conceptual understanding. Exit tickets, quick writes, and student reflections will give teachers real-time data that can be used to adjust instruction. I'll work with the instructional coaches to develop a bank of formative assessment tools aligned to each unit.
Fourth, we'll address attendance-related achievement gaps by creating an intervention block for chronicle absent students. We'll also explore Saturday sessions and target support during our advisory. I'll collaborate with our attendance committee and counselors to identify students and design the intervention schedule.
Nice. And fifth, I think we'll provide professional development on student discourse, inquiry-based learning, and lesson planning. We can also model best practices and support teachers through coaching and collaboration. I'll lead the demo lesson during our next faculty meeting, and Mr. Perez will organize the PD calendar and resources.
Sixth, we'll launch an Algebra 1 honors pilot program for the high-performing students. We'll design a curriculum that's rigorous, relevant, and engaging with interdisciplinary projects and real-world applications. I'll go ahead and draft the framework and work with teachers to refine it over the summer.
Seventh, we'll explore summer acceleration for incoming freshmen. That opens an opportunity for advanced math pathways and gives students a head start on college readiness. I'll coordinate with our counselors and middle school partners to identify candidates and communicate with families.
And finally, we can also create a lesson planning protocol to ensure consistency, rigor, and responsiveness. I think teachers will have a clear framework for designing instruction that meets the needs of all learners. I'll work with Mr. Perez to finalize the checklist and roll it out during the next PLC cycle.
Perfect. Let's also set a timeline. We'll reconvene in about 3 weeks to review the progress on each initiative. At that meeting, we'll bring in Algebra 1 teachers for feedback and refinement. This is a living plan. It will evolve, and we will learn more and more and see what works and what doesn't work.
And let's build in accountability. Each initiative should have a lead, a timeline, and a measurable outcome, whether it's improved benchmark scores, increased student engagement, stronger lesson plans. We need to keep track of our impact.
Okay, and I'll ask our data team to create a dashboard for Algebra 1. We'll track attendance, assessment scores, growth metrics, and instructional walkthroughs. That way, we can monitor progress and make data-driven decisions.
Perfect. We should also celebrate success. When a teacher tries a new strategy where the students shows growth, when a team collaborates effectively, let's recognize it. Culture matters. Let's build with a culture of learning, innovation, and support.
I like it. And let's communicate with families. We'll send out a newsletter for including our Algebra 1 initiatives. We can invite parents to the math night, share student success stories. When families are informed and involved, I think the students will thrive.
Okay, so before we close, I want to say this. Algebra 1 is a gatekeeper course. If we get this right, we open doors for our students. College readiness, STEM careers, confidence in math. So let's stay focused and committed. This work matters.
I couldn't agree more. We're just not improving a course, we're reshaping the future. Every decision we make, every strategy we implement, every conversation we have, it all adds up. Let's keep pushing forward.
And let's keep listening to our students, to our teachers, to each other. This collaboration is going to be our greatest asset. When we work together, we can solve any problem.
Thank you both for your leadership and insights. I'm proud of the work we're doing, and I'm excited about what's ahead. Let's take this plan, put it into motion, and make Algebra 1 a model of excellence on our campus.
All righty, sounds great. So I just want to say thank you, Mr. Cerda, and thank you, Mr. Perez. This has been a productive and inspiring session. Let's keep the momentum going.
Absolutely. We'll move forward with purpose, clarity, and our students are counting on us.
Perfect. Thank you guys for joining us today in our Algebra 1 POC. We hope this session provided insights into how we're working collaboratively to strengthen our instruction, support our students. From all of us at Dr. Leo G. Cigarron High School, thank you for watching. Let's keep pushing forward. And let's go ahead and level up for the upcoming year and become the A-rated campus.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate everything, and we'll see you next time.
Yes.
Okay, let me. Stop recording.